Welcome to the bold analysis. Raila Odinga's latest strategy has thrown the state back to the drawing board. And the strategy has been very clear that Raila not to be the face of aggression towards the William Ruto's administration as the finance bill anger continues to rage in public. And the strategy, or what Azimio Umoja has been thinking about, is making Raila to sit back so that Kenyans can protest. However, it is a question whether it will detonate the protest, or rather it will work against the motivation of his constituency, which is largely being viewed as the strongest point, or rather the strongest stronghold, as the stronghold of SabaSaba. But as that continues, as that discussion saturates the social media spaces, State House operatives are running some fabricated stories linking Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga with the protests. Now, shamefully, they have gone to the extent of even profiling some judges, that some judges are part of the wider scheme by the former president and the former premier to stall William Ruto's administration. But the truth be told, the issue of stalling William Ruto's administration is not the priority now, but it is gospel truth that things are not going on well and people are not happy. These are narratives to paint the protests as the fabricated, the fictitious stories of Uhuru Kenyatta behind the SabaSaba movement is just a narrative that is aimed at making the protest, painting the protest look as Azimio affairs, while they're looking at a holistic approach that will bring everyone on board. As we look into this Raila Odinga's new TACT, before we delve deep into that, allow me to remind you about Sarah's fundraiser that we are pushing, the last expense towards the support of the final journey of Sarah. We supported her last year through the medical bill, but after battling cancer for 1 year, we lost Sarah Tieno, and the burial is slated for next week on Friday. So just to offset some bills, the medical bill that is remaining, and the last expense, we are reaching out to you in a special way with the 100 shillings donation, a challenge to help in that. And thank you very much for those who are pushing and those who are still hanging around for that project that I think we've run it, I think, like for 1 year. And may God really bless you. Guys, today I was with some Uber guy, and we were in that car more than two. So the discussion was, I tried to ask informally, what are people's expectations as far as SabaSaba is concerned? And the Uber guy was telling me outright that now it will be very difficult to convince Kenyans that the problem is about Raila Odinga, or rather is an Azimio problem, because the issue of the price of fuel has affected everyone. In fact, the Uber guy was telling me, the problem is not that William Ruto is overtaxing us to pay the debts, but the challenge here is that the progress, or rather the plan, is over-ambitious to the extent of even hurting the population. If you want to know that the SabaSaba is beyond political persuasion, I want to play with these two clips. One is that Cosmo Choi, that guy who is based in US, who was complaining, saying that he campaigned for William Ruto, but he's left. Nothing. I think they campaigned thinking they were going to get something. a couple of supporters, that people that campaigned for William Ruto, are now complaining, regretting, and wailing that they have been betrayed. You can listen to that soundbite here.
Mimi nikiomba Wakenya msamaha wote wale niliweza kuambia mambo ya bottom up na mambo ya mkokoteni, nikisema wanisamee kwa sababu hatukutaka kuchagua serikali ya udikteta. Tulitaka kuchagua serikali itasikiza mwananchi, hata kama ulikosa kura ama tulipata, wale walipata sisi tukakosa, wafanye kitu ambayo inasaidia mwananchi wa Kenya. Waache kufanya ile vitu inawasaidia. Na ndio unaona hii dunia yetu sasa inaisha. Kwa sababu saa hii mtu akipewa kazi ya kuhudumia wananchi, anaweka mfuko mbele. Ukienda hata kwa ofisi ya serikali ambaye umechaguliwa, umeappointiwa kufanyia mwananchi wa kawaida kazi, lazima umuulize kitu kidogo. Hii kitu kidogo ndio imemaliza hii nchi. Ndio unaona imemaliza NHIF, watu wanalipa NHIF, hakuna matibabu wanapata mazuri. Ndio unaona mahospitali yetu imeanguka. Ndio unaona mabarabara yetu imeharibika. Hata wale wanapewa kazi ya kutengeneza hizo barabara, wanatengeneza venye wanataka.
Sana tena zaidi. Wakati huyu Ruto alikuwa anahitaji watu wa msaidie, nilikuwa huko karibu. Mimi tu kazi mochoi kama mwanaume. Wakati timu handshake na timu PPI ilikuwa inapiga Ruto kabisa, hakuwa anamtaka. Mimi kazi mochoi ndio nilikuwa na guruma na anatoa sauti na kutetea huyu Ruto kabisa. Wakenya wote, kwanza jamii ya Mkalenjin, Wakikuyu, Wakisii wenzangu wote Kenya mzima wanajua ila mtu alisimama na huyu Ruto ni mimi tu. Wakati wa PPI, Musalia Mudavadi alikuwa PPI, anauza PPI. Wetangula alikuwa PPI, anauza PPI. Amason King ameuza PPI. Alfred Mutua ameuza PPI. Ani Waigoro wameuza PPI. Justin Muturi wameuza PPI na wengine. Wakati PPI imesama, imeanguka, ndio wamerudi hapa kutafuta kazi. Nimesimama na Ruto wakati Ruto akiwa deputy president, akicha hapa Marekani for the first time. Niliacha kazi yangu, nikatoka North Carolina, nikaenda DC, nikamwelcome kwa airport, nikamngojea kwa masaa, nikampokea. Akitokea huko akasema, "Kasmo, ni mimi mwanaume." Nikampokea na mikono miwili, hakuna mtu mwingine. Nikampeleka mpaka kwa hoteli yake, nikakaa huko 3-4 days na Ruto mwenyewe, na anakumbuka hiyo. Na anakumbuka hiyo kabisa. Watu wakaongea mengi, watu wa media, watu wa social media, watu wa magazeti Kenya, wakauliza ni nani, mtu gani huyu sasa anaenda kuchukua Cosmo Joy? Ni kama mimi Cosmo Joy nakaa chokora.
Now, those two clips show you something, if you are keen, that the voice of betrayal, that we have been betrayed, is that all UDA supporters, even those who supported William Ruto, and you know, if you supported William Ruto because you didn't like Uhuru Kenyatta, and not about Raila, then Uhuru Kenyatta is not in the picture. In the moment Uhuru Kenyatta is not in the picture, and Uhuru warned us, saying that you guys, you will know what you're playing with. But by that time, we were preoccupied with just one simple ambition, to make sure that Uhuru goes home to Chaweri. Now, because of that TACT of Raila to withdraw from the SabaSaba, and I fully support the aspect of withdrawal, because that will make it, I will really want, I will fancy a situation where the SabaSaba is owned by Kenyans and it's a Kenyan thing, not it being pegged on leaders, because that is where people normally try to draw political lines. Now, I have seen some photos being shared of garis mebeba maji moving up and down, of trying to make security surveillance. But Cherargei is really making, just to show you that people are in panic. Huh? They're simply in panic because Cherargei is saying that tomorrow the state is going to unleash some strategies to protect property from Azimio Oka. And you know, let's be very realistic here. If the SabaSaba is about a protest about the cost of living, but someone, a leader, is already speculating, perambulating somewhere, that there's going to be destruction of property, and so us or them as the state, they have started plans of, you know, the state role should be to give security to the protesters. But do you know the interpretation of we're going to protect property? We're going to unleash goons. And so the strategy of unleashing goons is to wreak havoc in the society so that it can deviate the objective of the protests. And the next morning, leaders will get talking point as the protest not being organized on the cost of living, but for people to loot. And you know, I've always said that's normally a very cheap narrative. Do you think Raila Odinga benefits if someone loots someone's shop? Do you think? Is there any Azimio leader that will benefit if someone destroys someone's shop? None benefits. And so I don't think the SabaSaba concept is on making sure that people can loot. But that has been an old, tired script by the state operatives, that one of the only strategy to detonate, or rather to profile negative the protests, is by unleashing goons, and then the next day or the next morning, you take stock and even fabricate fictitious stories about how things have been destroyed during a protest. The destruction of the property comes as a revenge or some retaliatory. It comes as a bit of some retaliation, but I don't really think that is it. Number two, if you want to know the state is in panic over that move by Raila Odinga to withdraw, there is media suppression to limit coverage. And in fact, that is where the thin line is, because I think in terms of media coverage, they tend to look at where Raila is. So if Raila is coming on this side, they want to know where is Raila. If it's coming some other side, that's what people want to know. So there is some sort of media suppression to limit coverage so that the discussion will somehow sublime. Lastly, if you want to know, there is also panic, profiling Azimio leaders to brand the protests as political. You know, what has so far been going on is, what is Raila? What is Raila's stake? What is Kalonzo? I don't think the SabaSaba should be about how many leaders of Azimio La Umoja are there. You know, I've been seeing a story, I think it was carried by the Star, and they were saying about how there is some disquiet or there is some division amongst the Azimio team on some MPs are reluctant on the matter of protests. And my position is very clear that I don't think the SabaSaba concept should be judged on how many members of Azimio have turned up. No. It should be owned by the public. In fact, you rather question how many members of the civil society, representation of the civil society, even today there were lawyers' protests going on in Kisii. How many Kenyans have come out? From which areas? I think that will sound more objective than going to characterization of leaders around the SabaSaba. That is my take. And how I wish that the state will allow, because the Constitution allows protest and picketing. So that we've tried, even in the first phase, things went loose. Immediately police start hitting people. That's where things are normally destroyed. That is where things go wrong. And I wish they can give it time, can give them time and see how it runs. And we really see if the police are not beating people, are they going to distract? Are they going to throw stones? Let's have that discussion. I think let's have that trial and see. You know, the president left, and I saw observers saying, you know, the president has left so that he can give some very rogue instructions for brutality in the population. I really hope that is not it. So that's my take, and let's see, meet in the next podcast.